Hello, everyone. It is your girl, Dr. Monica, here once again with another Love Yourself to Life Moments, Monday Moments. And this session we had Monica Smith. Monica is the owner of Mindful Endeavors. She is a personal and professional coach. She is the author of Stress Lightly. So without further ado, we're going to hear from Monica Smith as she teaches us how to stress lightly.
Hello, everyone. It is Monica Smith. I'm so happy to be here in the Love Yourself to Life group and being a member of this group. It's been wonderful. Happy to be here to share this Mindful Monday with you guys. And today I am going to be talking about stressing lightly. So my company is Mindful Endeavors. And what I do is I offer personal and professional development coaching to individuals and organizations. I do team building, education, empathic leadership, and I do a lot of work around stress reduction and coping with stress. So today, I want to talk a little bit about that. So how many of you have experienced any kind of stress? I know I have. I know I have today, actually. It's been the Mondayest Monday ever for me. And one of the things that I want to just focus on today for the time that I'm here is about mindfulness and what that is and how that can help with coping with stress. So as a Christian woman, I spend some time in prayer along with meditation in the morning. And one of the things that I have found tremendously helpful, whether you, whatever your religious background is, whatever your practice is or spiritual belief, is spending time in quiet reflection. And when people hear the word mindfulness, sometimes they think that it may not apply to them, or they may think that it's specifically related to meditation, or it's specifically related to something spiritual, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. Mindfulness and the act of being mindful is being presently aware. Being presently aware. So it's taking a moment to be aware of your surroundings. Have you ever heard of anybody use the term grounding or grounding activity? If you have, that is definitely one of the benefits of being mindful, is in practicing that mindful, intentional focus on the present moment. When we experience stress, sometimes we can feel as though, well, I'll just talk about how it is for me. One of the things that creates stress sometimes for people is public speaking. Sometimes having too much to do in a short period of time. How that impacts me, I get very disjointed in my thinking. I have physiological responses to my stress. Sometimes that could mean my heart beating really fast. It could mean my palms getting sweaty. It could mean my stomach feeling like it's in knots, or that I have butterflies in my stomach. So if any of those things have ever happened to you, if you've experienced those symptoms, I find it's really helpful to reframe that stress, those responses, to something not necessarily negative, because stress isn't always negative, right? Mm-hmm. Stress is our bodies readying ourselves for action, whatever that action may be. So reframe it as, your body's getting ready. You're getting ready for action. You're getting ready to jump in there and do some things. So you need to have your heart pumping a little faster. You need to be ready. You need to be more aware. Sometimes it's a little too much, though, and it doesn't always feel comfortable. So in moments like that, I focus on taking 3 deep breaths And this is a great tip. Write this down. Just take 3 deep breaths, hold it for 3 count each one. So just breathe in, hold it for a 3 count, and let it go. Breathe in as deep as you can. 3 count, let it go. Do that one more time. Even just doing that now, I can feel an immediate physiological response to taking that moment and providing my body energy in the form of oxygen. And we don't always do that when we're stressed or we're overwhelmed. We tend to tighten up. We tend to get tense. We tend to hold our breath. So just doing that act of taking some intentional breaths brings us back to the present moment, brings us back to the sensations of our body, and focusing on our breathing helps to kind of bring our stress level down a little bit. Another tip I have about just being mindful as it relates to coping with stress is to really think about what's happening in the moment. Get connected with the sensations of your body, with how you're feeling, with your feet on the floor, with your hands, with, again, my breathing is my anchor, so bringing it back to how your breath feels, how you're breathing, and what is actually happening around you. We tend to get really run up the ladder of inference when we get stressed, right? So catastrophic thinking, or we kind of talk ourselves up into a worst case scenario when we get feeling like we're not necessarily in control. And pausing, this is the second tip, the power of the pause. Pausing, just pushing like a pause button. Boop, just pause. And consider what is actually happening in the moment opposed to what we feel like is happening in the moment. So what is actually happening in the moment? Right? I like to use a scenario. I work in an office environment and in the field. Many of us do. Or even if you work in like a retail environment or a sales environment, there's a heightened level of expectation surrounding the processes of the day, right? Paperwork, returning phone calls, whatever that may be. And sometimes people's around us, their stress level is so high that they come into our space with a heightened stress level, and our first reaction is to respond and meet their level of stress. We do this instinctively before we even actually think about it, because we have what we call mirror neurons in our brain. It's like when we were babies and we smiled at our parents, taught us, would smile, and we would mimic that behavior. We're still the same human beings. We still have that same biology. So we mimic kind of the energy that's presented in front of us. If we're not careful to push that pause button and to consider our surroundings before we respond, then we could find ourselves joining into some energy or some stress that we don't want to necessarily join into, right? So pushing the pause button, the power of the pause. And the other thing about being mindful, I had mentioned, as a Christian, I spend some time in prayer in the morning, and in preparation to talk to you all today, I did a little reflection, and I have a couple of verses that I wanted to share with you. One of them is, I wrote them down here so I would not forget, because I'm not a preacher, so I don't have all these memorized. Psalms 46:10 is, "Be still and know that I'm God." And we all know from reading the Bible that God said God is love. And in order to really absorb the energy and all of the pure energy that is available to us through the Spirit and through God, we need to be still. God tells us be still. We're also busy being busy that we don't stop for a minute to let it all sink in. And we're not going to be able to experience that peace in our souls, in our hearts, unless we're still. So God tells us to be still. Another verse that came to me as I was reflecting is Romans 12:2. It's a little longer, so if you permit me, I'll read it to you. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, and pleasing, and perfect will. When I read that, I thought how perfect that message is, that the world around us is so, like I said before, busy being busy, that we get wound up in all of these things that we're supposed to do, that we have to do, that we don't have to do. And we can miss God's perfect will for us if we're not careful to pay attention to that and renew our mind by sitting and being still, to renew our mind in that perfectness of God's Spirit and God's love. So I thought that was pretty powerful and wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. And there's one other verse, the third verse is Colossians 4:2, and I'll write them down in down here after. It's devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. Devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. So those of you who are watching, who are not necessarily Christian, one of the things that is so powerful, it's probably the most powerful piece of practice, is gratitude. Gratitude, I cannot emphasize enough how powerful a gratitude practice can be. And a gratitude practice is, it does keep us anchored in all of the good things that we have and all of the positive things that we have. There is no shortage of challenges in this lifetime. We all have walked a journey. We all have a story. Many of us have suffered losses. Many of us have suffered traumas. Many of us have lost ourselves and had to find ourselves again. And gratitude practice keeps us focused on the things that we are thankful for, the things that we have. Maybe not everything that we want, but the things that we have, the things that we have that we need. One of the mindset practices, and mindset is tied directly to, rooted in gratitude, as far as I'm concerned. This is the world according to Monica Smith now. Mindset and gratitude are very closely linked. And if you practice telling yourself, I get to go to work today, instead of I have to go to work today.
Very good.
I get to take care of my children. How blessed am I that I get to take care of my children, instead of I have to. Because the reality is, it is a drudgery at times to have to, logistically plan for everybody's day and meals and all the routines of the day. But the bottom line is, if you didn't have that in your life, you would miss it. You would miss it. And how blessed we are to get the opportunity to do those things, even the things that are annoyances to us at times. I have to practice this on a regular basis. And some days I do better than others. let me tell you, some days I do better than others, but I have found such power in that mindset rooted in gratitude. It's actually created a snowball effect of positive energy. And we know Lisa Nichols says energy grows where energy goes. And that is very true. If you are, whatever you're looking for, I promise you, you're going to find it. So if you're looking for the positive, you're going to find it. If you're looking for things to be thankful for, you're going to find it. If you're looking for the benefits to what you're doing, you're going to find it. And the same is true for the opposite. So you have to be careful. The same is true for the opposite. If you're looking for the negative, you're going to find it, because there's no shortage of that either.
So true.
So it's all about being rooted in gratitude. Yeah, so I have about 10 minutes. I do want to just touch base on a couple of pieces of information that I found tremendously interesting, and I'm going to get a little bit educational with you guys, but I want you to look it up to explore further the information that I'm giving you. If you want it, I can provide other resources too, but it's really interesting when we talk about being rooted in gratitude, or when I had mentioned that, and we like to label people. We like to label things. So either like a pessimist or an optimist or a realist. And I'm sure we've all kind of considered kind of where we fit in to those three different categories. Well, the interesting thing that I found out is the research tells us, and science tells us, that we are biologically created to default to negative. We are biologically created to default to negative. And the reason why is because in the early times, we had to be able to recognize threats in our environments, right? Before we had all this fancy, cameras on the outside of the houses and whatever we have now to alert us to threats. And, when we didn't have running water or plumbing or all the things that we have now, our modern conveniences, we were created to default to a negative so that we could recognize the threats and keep ourselves safe. So in order to change that, we have to practice. We have to practice. Nobody's born defaulting to positive constantly. I have many times been teased for being positive Polly or Susie Sunshine, and people tease me because I always reframe to the positive, or I reframe to a strength-based idea or a strength-based concept. So instead of, I kind of steer away from labeling people, and I stay curious. I stay curious about people. So, or curious about situations. So instead of just kind of coming to a judgment, even though I do, because that's how my brain works, I take that initial judgment or that initial kind of understanding, and I just hold it. I hold it over here. I say, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of what I think is going on, but let's stay curious about this. Let's find out, and let's see if we can reframe that to something positive. So again, it takes practice. And the other thing that science tells us is that even though we're created to default to negative, if we practice a positive reframe, then we can actually create a different neural pathway in our brain, and then we can create habits or neural pathways in our brains that will be more defaulted to positive. but it doesn't happen overnight. It happens after many, 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 many practice runs. But it is possible. It's possible to create those different reactions and different responses to the stimuli around you. And our brains are fantastic, and they can grow and develop with us as we learn new things and develop. So definitely practice makes progress. Practice does not make perfect, but practice makes progress. And the more you practice the being rooted in gratitude, the positive reframe, the more that you practice being aware of your surroundings, the more that you practice giving yourself the gift of some quiet personal time during your day to be still and absorb all God's goodness. Be still and reflect on the positive things around you. I promise you that you will start to find the things you are focused on. You will start to find more of the things that you are focused on, more of the things that you need to be grateful for, more of the things that bring you joy, more of the things that create a sense of peace for you. You will find them the more that you practice. So that is my topic today. So in recap, 3 deep breaths, stress, 3 deep breaths, hold them for a 3 count, let it go. Push the pause button, definitely push the pause button. Spend some time just getting reframing, getting focused, and getting focused in gratitude. And remember that practice makes progress. And I have a couple minutes left, so I'm gonna jot this down. I think you guys can see these comments here, but if you have any questions or anything, because I know I threw a lot of stuff at you. It's in a very condensed 8-week course condensed into 25, 26 minutes. So if you have any questions, please just let me know. And I'm going to put the Bible verses down here, and I'm going to put a couple different little things for you guys to check out, so you can do some research on your own. You want to look into it further. Chronicles 16, 11. Thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you guys this evening. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you found it helpful. And definitely, you know where to find me if you, like I said, have any questions. I'm going to put a couple more verses down here, and I'm going to put a link to a TED Talk about stress from a woman named Kelly McGonigal, and she did a really great TED Talk. Oh, look at, I didn't see these before. Oh, geez, I missed all of these things. Hey. All right, so this is TED Talk. Is Kelly McGonigal, I think that's her name. You should be able to find her. Just looking to see if I didn't miss anybody's questions. Okay. Thanks for all the positive comments, guys. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.
So there were plenty of positive comments on her session, and it was absolutely amazing with Monica Smith sharing with us about the power of the pause, taking deep breaths so that we can recenter going back to gratitude. Instead of complaining about something, find something to be thankful about it with. You know, going to work. Oh my gosh, I have to go to work today. Well, be thankful that you have a job, especially now in the middle of this pandemic where many people have lost their jobs and are continuing to lose their jobs. Be thankful that you have a job to go to. She gave us some scriptures. I'll also list those in our chat here so that you can have those. And she talked about, you know, just being present in the moment. And something that I picked up from that is purpose and productivity can occur in the midst of the pain. And we'll talk about that later. So thank you so much for watching this video, for being here as Monica Smith from Mindful Endeavors, who is also the author of Stress Lightly. I encourage you to get her book. I have mine. I didn't grab my copy before we started this session today, but pick it up. She has some great tools in there. And thank you so much for joining. It's your girl, Dr. Monica. And as always, I absolutely love you to life.